Joining us on the line right now is Austin Steinbart. He is the campaign manager for Jerome Davison. Austin, thanks for coming on. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Brian.
Sure. All right. So let's start with that interview I did a few days ago. As you know, the candidate that you are working for called me a white supremacist, a racist, among other things. I would imagine that you wouldn't defend those statements. Do you have any idea why he said those things?
Yeah, so I think it's I don't necessarily think that was directed at you. I think that is the buildup of just a general sentiment that a lot of Black conservatives feel. And the idea is like they feel very patronized by the idea of other people telling them that if you don't think in this way, then you are like a traitor to your community, essentially.
Okay.
So
Well,
I think that's the vein of thought where that came from. I don't know that it was articulated in the best way in that particular case. We're working on polishing up that messaging, but I think that general sentiment is very valid in the sense of like a lot of the Black conservatives I know, they get tons of shit because then they get very ostracized and very harassed in a very racialized way, like acting like they're some kind of traitor to their race. And it's almost as if a lot of these people, and I'm not saying this is you, I'm just saying this is the general, like
I
it's
can't
almost as if
speak for them.
a lot of these guys, they act like if Black people don't vote Democrat, then they're not truly Black and they're not voting in line with their interests. And so I think that the how fed up the Black conservatives are with that, I think that's where that kind of emotion came from.
So
So I'm
I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for myself. And I didn't make any of those statements towards him. Now, obviously, I disagree with a lot of what he stands for, and we can get into some of those topics. But he said, quote, "You're a white supremacist. You're a racist. I'm a 42-year-old Jewish man. You have a candidate that is running for office in Congress. Do you think it's appropriate for someone running for Congress to call a 42-year-old Jewish guy who's never said or done anything racist in his life a white supremacist?" I think it's a pretty simple question. I'm not talking about everybody else now. I'm talking about me and how that interview went.
Well, I didn't catch the full interview there. I just kind of like heard the cliff notes, and I think it would be more constructive in the future to express those emotions in a little bit more of a polished way. But I think Jerome's a great guy. I think we've been under heavy fire here. We've gotten sued. We have all the DMCA notices. We have people trying to spook us out. We have the police. When that video went viral, the police came to Jerome's house and grabbed his son in the middle of the night and took him in on a year-old like nonsense warrant. So we are getting like really shaken down out here. I'm not sure how much you're aware, but Arizona is run by the mafia and the intelligence services. Like this whole political show over here, this is not real. What's real is the mafia and the intelligence services and how hard they come at people who are trying to do legitimate campaigns.
What do
And
you
so I
mean the
think
show is? What do you mean the
Is
show
feeling the
isn't
heat of
real?
that.
I don't understand what do you mean? You mean my show's not real? I don't understand.
No, I'm saying these elections in Arizona are not real.
Why are they not real?
Because Arizona is run by the mafia and the intelligence services.
And
So, like people like John McCain.
Where's your evidence to back up those claims?
I have a video called Black Ops 101. I encourage everyone to check it out. That's kind of like the oversimplification, like lay of the land, kind of like it's the homework of like how did I get here? What's the math? But essentially, there's this thing called D6, which is the covert paramilitary wing of the CIA, and they operate. They bring a lot of their finances, equipment, men in through the southwestern corner of Arizona, which is vast quarantine desert, like it's military bombing ranges. So law enforcement has to stay out of there. And that is essentially like the Suez Canal of the deep state, quote unquote.
What is the deep state? What is the deep state? What is
it? To me, the deep state is a catch-all term for an organization called D6, which is the covert paramilitary wing of the CIA at MI6.
Okay, I have to give people a little background on you, and then I will give you an opportunity to respond, because I do think credibility is important here. You have claimed, well, I mean, I think credibility is important. And
no, I just chuckled because I know you're saying credibility, and then you're about to read a bunch of like our drag tabloid articles about me. But I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to respond. So
we'll go one by one. We'll go one by one, and you tell me if it's wrong. Are you not a convicted felon?
I am a convicted felon. I was
Okay.
extorted into pleading to extortion. I'm actually a certified YouTube gangster. I was thrown in prison over a YouTube video charged
Okay.
with
Well,
extortion.
whatever the reason being, you pleaded guilty to a felony in 2021. You
Yeah,
also
dude,
got
but listen.
yeah.
I was thrown in prison by the FBI for telling activists on the internet to make phone calls and emails. So everybody that wants to whine about January 6th, I was already in prison for telling people don't go visit them in person,
Okay.
phone call and email them.
Understood.
And that
Understood.
that is the predicate of that. So people
Okay,
like to
I
throw it out of my
understand.
face as like you're a felon. I like to throw it back in their faces like, no, I'm a civil
Okay.
rights hero and a freedom fighter and someone
Understood.
who got railroaded by the FBI in the most ridiculous way possible. Like by that standard, Brian, you could be dragged out by the FBI too,
I've
right? By
never I've
standard,
never
they
been in
got
jail
me.
in my life, sir. I've
I know.
never
I,
been in
I
jail
had
in my
neither.
life.
I had neither.
Okay, well, you had spent 225 days in jail. You can say it was unjust all you want.
Over a YouTube video, if you read the
Okay,
details, all I'm
again,
saying.
again, you can say you didn't deserve it, you're innocent, but the fact of the matter is you're still a convicted felon and you're running a campaign.
Okay.
You also got in trouble with authorities in September 2020 after you're found to be using a fake penis to avoid taking a routine drug test. Is that true, sir?
Yeah, that was a little stunt I pulled when I knew I was going back to
Well,
prison, but
that's
there
not a
was no
stunt.
drug
That's
test.
against the law. That's not a stunt, sir. When you use
Well,
a
I didn't.
fake
I never used it. That's the thing. That's the
right,
fake
but
news.
you were
It
attempting to
wasn't a
use it.
Wizinator. It wasn't a Wizinator, and I didn't use it. So
Okay. Did you claim to be a time traveler from the future from Q? Is that true, sir?
I never claimed to be a time travel. I was talking about quantum computing, which is effectively a time warping computer, right? I was talking about how does something a 0 and a 1 or anywhere in between at the same time. It's because it's physically warping the fabric of space time. And I won't do it on the show because we'll have a bit of time, but I can get
Mhm.
very into the granular details of how that works.
Yeah.
So I was
Well, you
talking
don't
about
have
how,
to get into the
listen,
details. I just wanted to know if you made the claim. That's all. You're saying you didn't. Did you
yeah, so
claim that you are
I
Q?
personally am not a time traveler.
Okay.
I was talking about this technology.
So you're not Michael J. Fox. Okay, good.
I am not.
Do you claim that you are Q? Have you made that claim that you're Q?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
That
that's
that
yeah.
board is like the fan fiction kind of like
Gotcha.
comic book version of what I am in real life.
Okay.
But it's not quite the same thing. It's not like following Donald Trump
So you're
around.
comparing
It's like
yourself to
actually
so you're comparing yourself to a comic book character, and you expect people to take you seriously.
well, I don't know that people like you would take me seriously either way. I could tell you the truth that we got like a real life movie going on here,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you can choose not to believe me, but I think it will become
No,
very
I mean I
evident
believe you. You
over
sound
the
like
next
very
few months.
I believe you. You sound very credible. You claim QAnon is a military intelligence operation. Is that also true, sir?
I am not doing QAnon at the moment. I'm doing the quantum movement,
Okay,
which
so
is
you're
like
saying
Throne's platform.
you're not affiliated with QAnon, even though you just said you claim
Uh,
to be Q.
no, I mean like I'm running the Q plan to get rid of
Right.
the deep state and to like
Mhm.
it's essentially a regime change operation towards the United States.
Okay, let's talk about January
Because
6th. Let's talk about
let's
January
do it.
6th.
Let's do
Yeah,
it.
let's do that. You've had over 700 people that have been either convicted. I think it's like 600, 700 that have been charged. We know 140 officers were injured that day. It is your candidate.
That statistic though, that statistic, like if we define officers injured as like this
Mhm.
officer, like someone blinked out in the wrong direction or he got a paper cut or he bruised his toe, then we can inflate the
There were
statistics
140
to
officers that were
incite
injured.
hysteria like this.
Okay, well, I'm not inciting
That
hysteria,
was
sir.
a very, very, as far as all the protests, you look at all the protests in the past
Mhm.
few years, that was a very standard protest.
Okay, so a woman was trampled, she died. A woman was shot. 140 officers were injured. I'm not going to
Yeah, the woman
characterize.
that was shot, who shot her? Who shot her? Was that the
Well, that was
protesters or was that the
justified. That was
cops?
she shouldn't have been there to begin
An
with.
unarmed protester. So if a Black Lives Matter person was going there and they
We're not
shot them,
talking
you
about
think that's
Black Lives
okay?
Matter.
No,
We're
I'm
not
just saying
talking
we
about
got to
no,
have the
and I'm
shoes on
just
the other
saying,
foot logic,
sir,
right?
sir, there is no comparison between a Black Lives Matter protest and what we're talking about now. Now, if you want to talk about Black Lives Matter, I'll be
A
happy to do that.
protest is a protest. A protest is a protest.
Okay,
Everybody
there's
has the
one
right to
thing to
exercise their voice.
it's one
And Black Lives Matter has the right to protest. January 6th has the right to protest.
you don't
And
have a
like I
right to go
said,
into the Capitol. You don't have a right to go in the Capitol. You
listen,
don't have a right to assault
listen,
police officers. You don't have the
listen.
right to try to overthrow our democracy. Do you have a right to do those
Do you
things, sir?
do you think that that was a legitimate like overthrow of our democracy? You really think that?
It
You
was an
really think that?
attempt. It was an attempted coup. We know that. That's
So
a fact. That's not an opinion.
that is nonsense,
Oh, really?
right?
So they weren't trying to overthrow our democracy because they weren't happy with the outcome of the
Listen.
election?
Are you gonna let me talk? Can I get like 30 seconds?
Oh, you're not answering my
Can I say?
question.
Yeah, no. Look, can I get like 30 seconds though?
Yes,
Can
please
I have a
answer.
chance? You guys are saying, right? You guys are in this paradigm like this is so scary. Oh my gosh, these people with
Who's you
selfie
guys?
sticks, whatever. Everyone who's hopped up on this January 6th nonsense. I don't think anyone should apologize for January 6th. I think the real extremists
What?
here are the FBI imprisoning people in solitary confinement for years on end without charge, no pretrial detention, bastardizing the Constitution, violating everyone's rights. They're trying to go after Trump for routine political rhetoric. We can check the tapes. Every Democrat politician says words exactly like those. Many Democrat protests have been exactly like those.
Okay, so hold on.
Who
Let me
is really
stop
the
you there.
extremists here? Us
Okay.
or you
First of
guys
all,
for
let's
saying
be specific.
you
Okay, so
want
what
the
do you mean, you
FBI
guys?
weaponized against your political opponents?
Okay, so
you want to
first of
say
all,
people that disagree with you are insurrectionists and throw them in jail for 20 years.
not true.
Who is
Okay,
the insurrectionist?
okay, so you said a lot of things there. You said a lot of things there. Let's try to go through them one by one. First of all, you call me you guys. Do you understand, sir? I'm not even a Democrat. I'm a registered independent.
Yeah. I'm in this case, you guys is the category of people who are hysterical about January 6th.
Gotcha. Okay, so first of all, I'm not
you guys in this case.
hysterical. I call out violence and incitement when I see it. So let's go through this. You're telling me some of the people there on January 6th that assaulted police officers with their own batons and tried to gouge eyes out, assaulting police officers, they shouldn't apologize? They didn't do anything wrong? Let's focus.
No, if you attacked an officer, you should be prosecuted accordingly. But
You
you
just
shouldn't
said
be
nobody
charged
should
with
apologize.
insurrection. But you shouldn't be charged with insurrection and go to jail for 20 years. You should get a battery ticket.
Who got
go to jail
20 years?
For maybe a week.
Who got 20 years?
They're trying to nail these people to the wall,
Who got
and even the people who didn't even go inside. Even
who
the
got
people
20 years?
Coy, this guy named Coy, he didn't even go in the building. He was outside at a permanent protest, and they are trying to nail this guy to the wall.
Okay, so the problem is you just said something that's factually inaccurate. Can you name me anybody that got 20 years?
I'm saying, as someone who's prosecuted by the FBI, that's what they come at you with.
You just said something that is false, and that's the whole premise of this conversation.
You don't think nobody is getting charged with 20 years? They're not trying to give anybody 20 years.
That's not what we think.
Let's go through those 600.
Listen, I want to be factual. If we have opinions that are different, that's fine. I'll debate that with you. But you just said somebody got 20 years. That's not true.
No, I'm saying they're trying to charge people with 20 years. I'm saying most of these people haven't been charged because they've gotten so many BS extensions, unconstitutional extensions on holding them pre-trial. That's why they haven't been fully charged yet.
So the people that assaulted police officers, that stormed the Capitol, that were chanting "Hang Mike Pence," that wanted the outcome of the election to be overturned, you have no problem with that at all.
I would much rather those people be in there going after the people actually causing the problems than burning down random people's businesses. Absolutely.
We're not talking about burning down businesses.
Next time.
Why is it you won't answer the question? We're not talking about Black Lives Matter. That's why I interrupt you.
No,
you don't
we're talking about logic. We're talking
about January 6th.
Holding consistent logic.
You say you're new and you want to talk to me about logic?
If your logic on this side is this is the standard, then it has to apply across the board.
Okay, guess what? It does apply across the board. If you burn down,
it doesn't.
Are you going to listen to me now? I'm going to make a general statement, which I make always, and I did it with your moron candidate, Jerome Davis, and he didn't listen to me. If you burn down businesses, if you assault a police officer in any way, shape, or form, I want you, to the highest extent of the law, to be put in prison. Period. So that's the end of that conversation.
But of the law. Right now, they're not following the law. They're using insurrection laws to violate.
There are sedition charges and insurrection charges.
Yeah, and that is extreme. That is extreme. That's crazy.
In your opinion,
the FBI needs to be put back in its place. It is completely out of control. If anyone backing this, they need to realize what they did to me, what they did to those guys. They could just come make stuff up and grab you out of your house at any time. If you think that's an acceptable standard,
nobody's ever grabbed me at my house.
Constitutional rights not apply. Hey, do you think the criminal justice system is fair? Do you think the criminal justice system is fair? How about that?
So that is an extremely loaded question to ask me whether.
No, do you think those gangster mafia DOJ guys, do you think that they are thinking straight? Do you think that they are being rational, reasonable, fair, or constitutional?
Okay, here's the way I will answer that question. I don't think there's a rational bone in your body. You think that you're a time traveler. You call yourself Q. You're a convicted felon, and you want to talk to me about being rational. Why don't you? It seems like you want.
How are you being rational? I just told you that stuff's not true. That stuff's hyperbole. I could.
You want to talk about Black Lives Matter?
I could send you documents, and you still parrot this horseshit tabloid line, right? So
what if I said that's? What if I said that's not true?
Or is it the people that?
What have I said?
The entire line of things, like most of the last things you said, are not true. And
what did I say?
Take the garbage tabloids line for it.
What did I say specifically that is not true in this conversation?
You said that I claimed you a time traveler. Not true.
No, sir.
And I just told you that wasn't true.
I asked
and now
you
you're still continuing to push it. So
I
if you want
asked
to be
you.
immune to reality and then
Okay,
project that
I'm
immune to reality onto me,
and you're comparing yourself to a
I'm
comic
saying,
character.
do you think, yeah.
And I'm immune to reality. Are you even an adult? You compare yourself to a comic character. You're a cute.
Yeah, so I don't scare people.
You're a felon.
And
by the way, it was your candidate, by the way, Jerome Davison, who 2 days ago when I had him on the program said that Antifa was responsible for January 6th. And I said, what's your evidence of that? And his only evidence was he saw people smoking weed. Yeah, your candidate is a moron. You are a conspiracy theorist. You've proven that time and time again. You are a convicted felon. You have zero credibility. And you want to tell me about ration? There's not a rational bone in your body. You're a convicted felon, and you call yourself the victim. You call the insurrectionist victims. Guess what? They're not. They're trailer trash.
If you are calling them insurrectionists and you want them nailed to the wall in that hardcore way, you are the extremist, my friend.
Oh, what did they do then? They didn't want to overturn the election, sir? Why were they there? Answer the question.
You are the extremist.
Why were they there? Why were they there?
It was a routine protest.
Storming the Capitol is a routine protest? Get this freaking idiot off my show. Have a nice day. You're a bozo. I'm not giving you another minute of my time. You and your candidate are morons. You're both a bunch of idiots. You are a disgraceful felon is what you are. Get him off the show. What a bozo. I regret even giving that idiot any time. What a bozo. You guys should be juggling balls at Circus Circus. Actually, the clowns at Circus Circus have a lot more credibility than this guy. All due respect to the clowns out there, I apologize. I can't take it. I can't take another second with this guy. Oh, my goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen. So we just had Austin Steinbart on the show, who claims he's Q, who's a convicted felon, who's telling me I'm not rational, and that January 6th wasn't an insurrection. It was just your typical. What term did he use, Numchuck? He said it was your typical.
I was off the
typical
rails.
protest. Yeah, he just said it was your typical protest. Really? Have we had any other January 6th in our lifetime? You had a bunch of people that were going in there trying to overthrow the government, and he calls it a standard protest. And then he said the police officers had paper cuts. People died that day. Officers committed suicide. A guy died the next day. Paper cuts. What an idiot. What a buffoon. What a fool. The guy who compares himself to a character in comic books says, I'm not living in reality. And then should we wonder why, as the campaign manager, why Jerome Davison is just as much of a buffoon as this guy? By the way, how can you be a convicted felon and run a campaign? Boy, that's a lot of credibility. Calls himself Q. And then what's the deep state? I love it how people use the term deep state. Oh, really? What's the deep state? What is it? Oh, boy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where we're at in society, where some people that are on the far alt-right, they like stuff like that. That was the campaign manager for Jerome Davison out in Arizona, who's running for Congress, by the way. His campaign manager is a convicted felon. His campaign manager was found to be using a fake penis to avoid taking a routine drug test. This is his campaign manager who says, I'm not living in reality, who hacked the medical records. By the way, this is proven because he was found guilty and he pleaded guilty. This guy who I just had on hacked medical records of celebrities while receiving treatment in a facility in March 2020. He pled guilty to that, which was a felony, by the way. But it's not his fault, right? It's the FBI. What a deranged kook this guy is. What a deranged kook. His media group completely infiltrated and operated by Will Sommer of the Daily Beast. It's crazy. I don't know. This guy's nuts right here. It really is. Just crazy. I don't know what you're showing me, Numchuck. What are you showing me? You can go on the air and tell me. Go ahead.
So he posted on our video
yeah,
that the Austin Steinbart Media Group, completely infiltrated and operated by Will Summer of the Daily Beast. Now you are involved as well. Congrats, pushing the limits, and Mac Miller, you've been duped by sadists.
I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what that means. Is that a threat? I don't even know what that means. By the way, a convicted felon probably shouldn't be threatening people if that's a threat on social media. I don't even know what that means. Obviously, this is somebody who is a kook, who, again, a convicted felon, somebody who is a Q conspirator, who calls himself Q, by the way. By the way, this is how crazy this guy is. Many people in QAnon don't even want to be associated with this guy. I mean, seriously, that's like if you were involved in Nazi Germany back in the days and you were an anti-Semite, and even Adolf Hitler didn't want to be involved with you. That's this guy when it comes to QAnon. Just crazy, man. I kind of knew that would probably go the way that it did. I gave him an opportunity, but nothing he said was true. And then he diminished those officers that were injured on January 6th. He said it wasn't an insurrection. I mean, there's so many things he said there in a span of 10 to 15 minutes that was just you-know-what crazy. But hey, these are the days that we are living in, ladies and gentlemen. These are campaign managers. By the way, you don't find any QAnon conspirators that are running Democrat campaigns. I wonder why. Why is that? Democrats that are running for office, do they hire convicted felons? Because if they do, I'll call them out. If you're Jerome Davison, who clearly is an ignorant fool, he's a boob. Hey, I think I know who I'm going to hire to run my campaign. I'm going to hire a QAnon conspirator, convicted felon. Well, boy, that just oozes out credibility, doesn't it? Oozes out credibility. Anyway, Austin, thank you so much for joining us. You're a moron, you're a conspiracy theorist boob, and you're an embarrassment to this country. And by the way, you belong back in jail. You jackass, you belong back in jail. Austin is the guy that, you throw the ball at the bullseye, and Austin's the one that jumps in the tank. He'll be the guy, he'll be the clown wearing the QAnon hat. He'd be the QAnon clown. But the difference is, if I had an opportunity that I wouldn't throw a ball at the bullseye, I'd probably try to aim at his face like a pitcher would at a batter. That's probably what I would do. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Austin. You're really a credible guy. Boy, if there's anybody that's running a campaign, Joe Lombardo should hire him as his new campaign manager. That's what
Austin needs Joey Gilbert.
Yeah, you're right.
Joey Gilbert needs Austin.
They would work all together. Brian, you have no sense of reality, but hey, I'm just like that comic book character. Hey, Brian, I'm Spider-Man, but you have no sense of reality. Oh, really? Are you 6 years old? No, I'm a 35-year-old man, convicted felon. But Brian, you have no sense of reality. Oh, my God. What type of television do you think that guy watches besides Alex Jones and Tucker Carlson? Like, what do you think Austin Steinbart, do you think he has a girlfriend? Do you think his girlfriend is a Q conspirator too? What woman would date that man? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have 10 women a day either, but I'm just saying, hey, my boyfriend, I'm really proud of him because he's a convicted felon. He used a fake penis to get out of some sort of drug test. And he calls himself Q. Oh, brother, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great stand-up comic routine. By the way, I wish it was. I wish Austin was just a stand-up comedian because I'd probably go and watch his show because it's so crazy. It's hilarious. But he's actually a legitimate, I use the word legitimate very loosely. He's the campaign manager, Jerome Davison, the guy that came on my show a few days ago who called me a white supremacist. By the way, he didn't even say it was wrong. He just said, yeah, that's not really the way that I would do it. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. No, well, I guess we'll remind people what Jerome said. This is what Jerome called me the other day.
Klansmen were Democrats, just like you.
Okay, first of all, I'm not a Klansman and I'm not a Democrat.
You're a white supremacist, I can tell.
Excuse me? Did you just call me how dare you?
Yeah, I can tell.
How dare you call me a white
You don't even like me. You hate the fact that I'm running because I'm black.
Sir, first of all, no, I hate the fact that he's running because he's a moron. That's why, because he's got an IQ of 25. By the way, you douche. You only scored 1 touchdown in the NFL. Would you have 3 carries your whole career? You weren't even a football player. By the way, I don't like you, and I think you belong in a mental institution, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that you're black. It's got something to do with the fact that you're psychotic and you're ignorant and you're a moron, and your campaign manager is a QAnon conspirator felon. That's why I don't like you. It's got nothing to do with the color of your skin. I'll tell you that right now. I don't like Tim Scott either, but it's not because I'm a racist. It's because I believe Tim Scott is also a moron. Okay? There's a lot of black candidates that I like, but guess what? Jerome Davison is not one of them.